looking at number 3 and number 4, if you tried to graph these, they did not come out well. So I apologize for that, but just for the sake of extra practice, we can find the distance between PL, LU, UM, and MP in order to go through the motions of how we would find the perimeter of that figure. So we will find the length of PL, LU, UM, and PM. So all of those distances, we'll add them together to get the perimeter. For PL, we will do x2 minus x1. We're going to be using the distance formula, which is right here. We'll be using that formula. Your x and y, x, y, x, y, x, y. Make sure that you are not doing it's not xx or it's not yy, it's xy, 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 xy. So we'll do x2, which would be my second x, minus x1 squared. Technically, if you did it the other way, it wouldn't matter either, because 1 minus 5 is negative 4. Negative 4 squared is 16. And 5 minus 1 is 4, and 4 squared is still 16. So the ordering is not that important for this one. Then we'll do plus y2, which is 2, minus negative 1 squared. Make sure if this says negative, you're going to have minus a negative number. LU is going to be x2, which would be 9, minus x1, which is 1 squared, 9 minus 1 squared, plus negative 4 minus 2 squared. Then UM would be 4 minus 9 squared, so 4 minus 9 squared, plus 4 minus negative 4 squared. And then PM, where you could do 4 minus 5 squared, plus 4 minus negative 1 squared. Then from there, as long as we plugged everything in, we can just do the math. 1 minus 5 is negative 4 squared, plus 2 minus negative 1. When we've got minus and negative, that becomes plus. So 2 plus 1 is 3. So 3 squared. This one is going to be 9 minus 1 is 8 squared, plus negative 4 minus 2 is negative 6 squared. Then we will go on to do 4 minus 9 is negative 5 squared, plus 4 minus negative 4. Those minus and negative will give you positive, so that will be 4 plus 4, which is 8 squared. And then 4 minus 5 is negative 1 squared, plus 4 minus negative 1. Again, those become positive to bring you to 5 squared. Negative 4 squared is 16. If you're putting this in your calculator, make sure you're putting parentheses around the whole negative 4, and the squared is on the outside. If you do negative 4 squared without parentheses, you will get a negative number, but we know that a negative times a negative will give us a positive, so any negative number squared must be positive. 3 squared is 9. Then we have 8 squared is 64, plus negative 6 squared is 36. 5 squared is 25. 8 squared is 64. Negative 1 squared is 1, and 5 squared is 25. So this will become the square root of 26. This will become the square root of 89. This will become the square root of 25. And this will become the square root of 100. Then we have the square root of 25 is 5. The square root of 100 is 10. The square root of 89, we cannot break that down at all. And 26, we can also not break down because that would be 2 and 13 doesn't do anything. So now we're going to combine like terms. The only like terms are 5 and 10. So we can do 5 plus 10 gives me 15, plus the square root of 89, plus the square root of 26 units. Units being, for perimeter, the distance. Then for number 4, we're going to need to find the length of SM, MI, IT, TE, and ES. In order to do that, you will again use the distance formula where you do x2 minus x1. So negative 4 minus 0 is negative 4 squared plus 3 minus 3 squared. I'll go ahead and keep going here. Negative 4 squared is going to be 16, and 3 minus 3 is 0. So now we have the square root of 16, which is 4. For MI, we'll take the square root of 2 minus negative 4 squared plus, where was I? MI, 5 minus 3 squared. 2 minus a negative 4 will be 2 plus 4, which is 6. So 6 squared is 36. 5 minus 3 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. So this will be the square root of 40. IT is going to be the square root of negative 8 minus 2 squared plus 1 minus 5 squared, which will be negative 8 minus 10 is negative 8 minus 2 is negative 10, and 1 minus 5 is negative 4. So then we get the square root of 100 plus 16. It's the square root of 116. TE will take the square root of 6 minus negative 8 squared plus 2 minus 1 squared, which will be 6 minus negative 8 is going to be 14, and 2 minus 1 is 1. 14 squared is 196, so I have the square root of 196 plus 1, which is the square root of 197. And then ES will be the square root of 6 minus 0 squared plus 2 minus 3 squared. And I'm getting those from up here. X, Y, X, Y. 6 minus 0 is 6, so 6 squared will be 36, plus 2 minus 3 is going to be negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1, so this will be the square root of 37. So then from there, I'm going to need to break down all of my radicals. So I will do that on a sticky, so it doesn't get too covered in numbers. So I've got the square root of 40. 40 is 4 times 10. 4 is 2 times 2. 10 is 2 times 5. So I'm just breaking it down into the factors. I have a pair of 2's here. This 2 has no one to pair up with, and this 5 has no one to pair up with. Anything in a box stays in the box. Anything that's circled comes on the outside. So now this is the same as 2 square root. 2 and 5 get multiplied back together to give you 10. So this is the same as 2 square root of 10. Then the square root of 116. 116 is 4 times 29. And if you don't know, you can always put in your calculator. You could say, okay, I know that it's even, so I can divide it by 2, and then just go from there. 4 is 2 times 2, and 29 doesn't have anything. But I do have a pair of 2's now. This 29 will stay in the box, so the 2 comes out, 29 stays in. 37 and 197 cannot be simplified. They cannot be reduced. So I will now add everything together. I've got 4 plus 2 root 10 plus 2 root 29 plus the square root of 197 plus the square root of 37 units.